Salutations viewers, I'm Sir Bookwriter, and I'm on a race against the calendar to beat all 96 of my 200cc time trial runs before the year ends. Last time, we strolled through Riverside Park, and then rolled the number 12, which means it's Mount Wario time! Woo! Mount Wario is the final track in the Star Cup, and good grief can I stop rolling tracks I like playing every other episode. Every single even-numbered track has been one that I have at least a better than average time on so far. And I hope that pattern stops persisting. The beginning of the record history here looks like the Catholic guide for naming a firstborn, because it's pretty much nothing but John and Mary. Yes, the John listed here is JP Givener. Other names have come and gone throughout the years. StarXLX, Kevin, Nick, and Esper, who owns the coveted title of Most Viewed 8 Deluxe World Record, thanks in part to his new strategy of being lucky with the YouTube algorithm. Esper's tenure in particular is important for a second reason. His last record here, a 1:15.783 set on March 28, 2019, remains in the top 10 to this day, despite multiple balance patches. This run is, as far as I'm aware, the single longest lasting time in the top 10 in the game's history, demolishing even Blue's infamous time on Piranha Plant Slide. What brought about this record that has withstood the test of time? Was it so advanced that it took everyone years to catch up? Does it feature strategies that are so inhumanly precise that no one has bothered to try and replicate them? No. The answer is actually a lot more simple than that. No one plays Mount Wario. It may be shocking to hear that, considering this track is a fan favorite among casual players, and pretty much every track ranking video on YouTube from that perspective puts Mount Wario at the very worst in the top 15. However, most top-level players put much more emphasis on how the track plays as opposed to its visuals and memorability, and the track's optimal gameplay doesn't quite cut it, especially in the latter half. The trees section goes without saying. It's a common complaint across all skill levels, but most of Section 3 is just as bad in a much more subtle way. The terrain is uneven, and you can go flying off with one wrong input. Plus, some bounces you can get make driving optimally impossible. Alberto took over in late 2020, and, barring a minor interruption from technical, has held the record here since. Many a time, Alberto would be on pace to improve into this section, only to lose the run to seemingly no fault of his own. Eventually he'd break through, setting the 1:15.106 that stands today, but this is still the only record here after Wave 4. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Surprise, surprise, we begin with a start shroom. After tricking out of the airship, Alberto charges 2 quick MTs and collects 3 coins. He then collects a 4th while drifting off this ramp, charges an SMT, then starts a drift off the left side of this ledge. That drift is held for a UMT around this corner, released as early as possible. Alberto then does another UMT across this gap, using his second shroom for extra speed and traction. This gap cut used to be shroomless, but Alberto found that using a shroom here and taking a different shroomless cut later on was faster. On landing from the gap cut, Alberto releases his UMT, and we're now in Section 2. Alberto charges an MT, doubles his coin count to 8, hops twice to the left, and drifts off this ramp to the other side. Normally you'd trick here, but Alberto does this drift for consistency, as the MT is less prone to weird gravity physics. Alberto then charges another MT and opts to take the glider. There isn't much of a time difference between taking the glider versus the waterfalls, but the glider is ever so slightly faster on 200cc. Upon landing, Alberto drifts off the boost ramp, releases his MT early, and does a little gap jump. That hop is used to do an SMT into the dam, which Alberto navigates with ease. He starts a drift before the third boost panel to squeeze in an extra MT before exiting. This slide he does on landing looks out of place. On 150cc, you'll see a lot of slides that look like this, named Kusan slides after the person that first implemented them. However, these slides are much less common on 200cc, as the slowdown from canceling a drift is just too great. I asked Alberto about this slide, and what he said pretty much confirms this, although the shroom immediately afterwards is what makes this slide save time. Plus it helps avoid this rock. Speaking of shrooms, this is where Alberto uses his final one to take the glider path and motion over to the far right side of the trees. That far right lane proves useful all the way through the section, neatly bypassing what is to many the most infamous part of the track. Alberto releases his SMT early, starts his next drift instantly, and enters Section 3. Section 3 is a bit odd. The track is now a steep slope downhill, and even though there's some anti-gravity, it's difficult for the cart to stick to the terrain. Example A, this first SMT. Normally you get a bounce or input a well-timed hop that sends you over this first ramp and allows you to trick off of the second one. If you're not going for the world record, do this. However, getting good bounces and tricking off of the first ramp is actually the fastest method, and this is what Alberto does in this run. Again, don't go for this method unless you're within striking distance of the world record. Example B, the slalom section. You may notice Alberto brakes slightly at each MT in this section so he doesn't get flung off into no man's land. You may also notice that the first of these doesn't actually complete the MT. This is intentional, as getting the MT would not only mean you're facing too far left, but it also sends you directly into the next wall. The mounds here aren't super formidable, but had Alberto not chained his MT into the first trick, he'd have lost a surprising amount of time. Alberto tricks twice here, then starts to drift off the third landing, releasing his MT as soon as he rounds this corner. And finally, example C, this downhill section. When Alberto goes for this counter hop MT strat, he gets a lot more height than usual. This can cause you to bounce over one or multiple boost panels for the rest of this part, which is a near instant run ender. Alberto does one more motion strat, flies through all 3 rings, and lands in a drift for one last nisc. This part at the end was where the third shroom was used for a long time, until the second shroom in section 1 was found to save more time. Alberto clears the nisc successfully, and drives straight into the finish circle where the crowd awaits. I mentioned this in the Big Blue video, but Mount Wario was my second choice for a world record grind. Naturally, this means there will be some lengthy personal history here too, right? Yeah, funnily enough, not really. Sure, I've played it more than the average track, and my time here is better than my average PB, but there's not a whole lot to my story here. This track was my favorite in Mario Kart 8 U before any DLC released, and it's another section track, so you already know I'm a bit biased towards it. Apart from that factoid, there's really nothing significant about my time playing Mount Wario. It's quite the contrast to the track I ended up playing instead. I said this earlier, no one plays Mount Wario. At the time of recording this, only half of the current worldwide top 10 set a time after Wave 4. I've been told numerous times by several players that I'd be the undisputed world record holder had I picked this over Big Blue. And maybe they're right. But it's equally likely that I wouldn't have kept playing at all. That's not what's going to go on today, though. Let's take this run down. Oh boy. I'm really rolling another track that I'm at least halfway decent at this early, huh? Alright, well, let's make the most of it. Combo is Ink Striker, but I hate the Ink Striker. What tires did Alberto use if MK World Records would open? Oh, he uses rollers. Interesting. Don't mind if I do, although I think sponges are optimal because of the traction stat, but I don't care. Also, my PR uses standards, so doubly I don't care. Yeah, see, there's me with my bars combo. The idea behind this combo was it rhymes. King Boo, Sports Coup, Standard Blue, Parachute. Alright, let's play the game, shall we? Well, that was almost good. The tree. The tree section is by far the worst part of the track. Like, trees and beyond, the track design just goes from a really good to a eh. Unfortunately, this is another one of those tracks where I don't think improving is going to take just one day. I could be wrong, but my run's good, and the latter half of the track is not very good. That stupid tree, like, that stupid little thing in general, it's costing me so much. Aw. Well, that was my first run into S3. And yeah, that's about how I expected it to go. I'm supposed to charge the MT for that. Hey, first completed run. That S3 is not the worst thing in the world. It's mostly just S2 that sucked. Bat! If I had found a way to make that work, that would have been wrong on a number of levels. That was fortunate on a number of levels. Okay, why did I get pinged? Who pinged me and why? He is pinging me to play lounge. After this attempt, I gotta tell him I can't. I'm on the grind. Why did I take that so wide? Doesn't matter, just gotta not screw up now. Which... yeah, good luck. I tricked over the boost panel. That's not supposed to happen. Bat! This could be a 116. Close, but not quite. Still, though, we're getting there. My S2s are slowly going down to more normal levels. I'd like to get that trees section in an actual run, please. That'd be awesome. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, if we're starting to survive through trees section consistently, that means the run's close. The run is near. Hey, a 116. We are absolutely getting closer. And hey, a .8 S3 as well. Yeah, no, I can do this today. Derusting is going actually surprisingly well. Maybe. Okay. Still not quite, but we're getting closer. A nice S3. That's not a best split. Okay, we're getting closer though. We're getting closer. This is good. This is good progress. Perhaps. What was that? Oh, that's a best split S3. Alright. Too bad that S1 stunk. Tree boost. That was actually kind of insane. That's a best split. Alright, don't die. Well, that's the death. Let's keep going anyways. You never know. Yep. Editing Q, what's the best S2 I've hit so far today? Like, the best one I've seen is like a high point 4. Which I don't think is it. That little log bump saved me. Alrighty. Nice. Oh, that's a relief. I was able to get this in one session. A good S1, a could-be-better S2, and a pretty decent S3. Alright. I'm happy with that. Oh, you have no idea how glad I am this only took one session. And 555 is a nice round number, too. Yeah, no, that little bump on the log I did in the tree section totally saved my line and my run. Okay, well, that'll do it from this side of things. Editing Q, take it away with track 9. Alrighty. So that was Mount Wario. I don't really have any ending thoughts to say, aside from I'm very glad I got this in one session. Without further ado, let's see what's next, and let's see if it's a Yoshi pipe frame track. 2. Water Park. It's not a Yoshi pipe frame track, and it's not a track I'm good at. The pattern is broken. Huzzah!